I always thought I'd be the last woman on earth to be cheated on. I cooked, I worked, I supported him through every promotion and every late night. I was the good wife until I realized being good wasn't enough. When I found out my husband was cheating, I didn't confront him. I didn't cry or beg or scream. Instead, I played him at his own game. I changed the rules. I made him wonder, doubt, question everything. And when the moment came to reveal the truth, oh, let's just say the look on his face was worth every second. Stay with me, because this is the story of how I beat my cheating husband without ever lifting a finger against him.
Cheating husbands think they're master manipulators, don't they? Smiling in your face while sneaking around behind your back. But this wife? She flipped the script and served revenge so smooth he never saw it coming. Before we dive in, make sure you subscribe to Flame and Fate Chronicles. Trust me, the drama here burns hotter than his lies.
I used to believe I was one of the lucky ones. The girl who had it all figured out. The husband who adored me. The house with the white shutters and rose bushes. The kind of marriage people envied when they saw us at dinner parties or strolling through the neighborhood holding hands. If you looked at us from the outside, we were picture perfect. And for years, I convinced myself the picture was real. I met Daniel, my husband, when I was 24. I was fresh out of college, working late nights as a junior account manager at an advertising firm. He was 6 years older, confident, charming, with a laugh that could fill an entire room. He noticed me right away. At least, that's how it felt. We fell quickly, deeply, and I didn't even think to question if it was too good to be true. Back then, I thought his ambition was sexy. He was always talking about climbing the corporate ladder, about buying us a house by the lake, about the life he wanted us to build together, and I wanted those things too. We married after 2 years of dating, and I remember standing at the altar thinking, this is it. This is forever. The first few years were good, better than good. We traveled when we could, built careers side by side, spent lazy Sundays tangled up in bed sheets with coffee mugs balanced on the nightstand. My sister Leah adored him. My best friend Maya called us the power couple. And I felt safe. Like I'd finally found someone who chose me every single day. But forever, I've learned, can be a fragile thing. It started small, little cracks in the foundation I chose to ignore. The late nights at work that turned into later nights. The B. I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to so badly. But belief is a slippery slope when the evidence starts piling up. I still remember the night I sat alone at the dinner table, staring at a plate of cold pasta while the clock ticked past midnight. He had texted at 7, saying he'd be home late. By midnight, no word, no call, no apology. Just silence. And me, sitting there, trying not to spiral. Leah had always been the first to notice when something was off with me. She called that night, just to check in. I tried to brush it off, but my voice cracked. She listened quietly, then said in her blunt, older sister way, "Something's not right, and you know it." Maya wasn't any gentler. Over brunch one Saturday, I found myself venting, half defending him, half crying into my mimosa. And she leaned across the table and said, "If he's making you doubt yourself this much, that's the problem, not you." Still, I clung to hope, to the memory of the man I thought I married, to the idea that maybe, just maybe, the distance between us was temporary, a phase. So I started adjusting myself instead, picking up his slack around the house, smiling at parties even when my stomach twisted in knots, pretending not to notice when he smelled of cologne that wasn't mine. That's the thing about being blindsided by betrayal. It doesn't happen in one swift blow. It's a slow bleed. 1,000 little cuts you bandage up until one day you realize you're covered in scars. By the time I hit 30, I was living in two worlds. The one I showed everyone else, successful career woman, devoted wife, the perfect hostess, and the one I hid, where I lay awake staring at the ceiling, wondering if I was losing my marriage, or worse, losing myself. And then came the moment that shifted everything. It wasn't a confrontation, not yet. It wasn't catching him in the act, either. No, it was quieter. Almost mundane. One evening, I walked into our bedroom while he was in the shower, and his phone buzzed on the nightstand. Normally, I never touched his phone. I believed in trust, in boundaries. But that night, something in me snapped. I picked it up. Just one glance, just one message. And what I saw made my stomach drop. I didn't scream. I didn't throw the phone. I didn't even cry. Not right away. Instead, I felt this cold, sharp clarity wash over me. Because in that single moment, I realized something. I could play this differently. If he wanted to play games, then fine. I'd show him how it felt to be on the receiving end. But I wasn't going to stoop to his level. I wasn't going to find comfort in another man's arms. Number. My revenge was going to be smarter, cleaner, psychological. And it would start with me reclaiming the pieces of myself I had been giving away for years. The text message was short, almost casual. Can't wait to see you again. Same hotel next Friday? No name, just a heart emoji. But I didn't need a name. I stood there, phone in my hand, staring at the message over and over until the letters blurred. I could hear the shower running in the background, steam slipping out from under the bathroom door. And suddenly, the man humming off-key behind that door didn't feel like my husband anymore. It felt like I was living with a stranger. My first instinct was to storm into that bathroom, shove the phone in his face, and demand answers. To scream, to sob, to fall apart right there on the tiled floor. But something in me held back. It wasn't weakness. It was clarity. Cold, sharp clarity. I put the phone back exactly where it had been, screen down, and sat on the edge of the bed. My hands trembled, but not from fear. From decision. I wasn't going to play his game with the same rules. No, I was going to rewrite them. The next morning, over coffee, I watched him scroll through his phone, smirk faintly at something, and then glance up at me with that same old charm. "Morning, beautiful," he said like nothing was wrong. Inside, my stomach twisted, but outwardly, I smiled back. "Morning." That was the moment I decided. I wouldn't give him the satisfaction of knowing he broke me. Instead, I'd let him live in the very hell he'd built for me. Suspicion, paranoia, doubt. Leah was the first person I told. We sat at her kitchen counter, mugs of tea between us, and I whispered, "He's cheating on me." The words nearly choked me. Her eyes widened, then softened, and she reached across the counter to grab my hand. "Tell me you're leaving him," she said. "Not yet," I whispered. "I want him to feel what I feel. I want him to look at me and wonder if I'm slipping away too." Leah's mouth curved into the kind of grin only an older sister can give. Fierce, protective, a little dangerous. "You want to mess with his head." "Exactly." Later that week, I told Maya. She blinked at me, stunned, then broke into laughter so sharp the barista at the next table glanced over. "You want to beat a cheater with psychological warfare?" "Oh, honey, I am so in." For the first time in weeks, I laughed too. The plan was simple. I'd start living like the version of myself I used to be before his lies dulled me down. New clothes, nights out, gym sessions, spa weekends. I wouldn't cheat. I didn't need to. I just needed him to think I might be. Because the worst punishment for a cheater isn't losing you. It's thinking they're about to. That weekend, I bought myself a silk dress, crimson red. I slipped it on, turned up music in the living room, and danced while I waited for him to come home. When he walked through the door, briefcase in hand, his eyes widened. "Wow, what's the occasion?" I smiled, swayed to the rhythm, and said lightly, "Do I need one?" He stood there, watching me, suspicion already flickering behind his gaze. And just like that, the game had begun. The red dress had worked better than I expected. That night, Daniel couldn't stop staring at me. He followed me into the kitchen, hovering as I poured myself a glass of wine. "You look different," he said, like it was both a compliment and an accusation. I swirled the wine glass in my hand, smirk tugging at my lips. Different can be good, don't you think? He didn't answer right away. He just studied me, trying to read what had changed. The truth was simple. Nothing had changed except me. I wasn't waiting for his approval anymore. I was reclaiming myself. The very next day, I signed up for a gym membership. Leah insisted on coming with me. She wasn't much of a gym person, but she loved the idea of being part of the mission, as she called it. As we jogged side by side on treadmills, she leaned closer and whispered, "He's going to lose his mind watching you glow up while he's rotting inside with guilt." I laughed between breaths. That's the point. I don't even have to say a word. He'll torture himself. Leah's grin widened. Just don't forget, this isn't just about messing with him. It's about remembering who you are. Her words stuck with me. She was right. The gym wasn't just about appearances. It was about power. Every drop of sweat, every stretch of sore muscle reminded me I was more than a cheated-on wife. I was a woman worth fighting for, even if he couldn't see it. By week 2, I was layering the changes. Gym visits 3 times a week, salon appointments I hadn't treated myself to in years, and the weekends? Spa trips. Sometimes with Leah, sometimes with Maya. One Saturday, Maya and I drove out to a resort an hour away. She was the kind of friend who could turn even the darkest moment into a comedy show. As we lounged in white robes with cucumber water in hand, she said, "So let me get this straight. He cheats on you, and instead of breaking down, you start looking hotter than ever and disappear on spa weekends? Girl, he's going to think you've got a sugar daddy." I snorted into my drink. That's the idea. I don't have to lie. I just have to live. He'll fill in the blanks himself. Maya's eyes sparkled with mischief. I like this version of you. Dangerous. Untouchable. When I came home that Sunday night, Daniel was already in the living room. He muted the TV as soon as I walked in. His eyes scanned me from head to toe, hair freshly blown out, skin glowing from the spa facial, the soft rustle of a shopping bag in my hand. "Where were you?" he asked. I tossed my bag on the chair and kicked off my shoes. "Spa weekend with Maya. You know, girl stuff." His jaw tightened. "You didn't mention it before?" I shrugged, pouring myself a glass of water. Didn't think I needed to. The look on his face was priceless, equal parts irritation and insecurity. For years, he had been the one with the secrets, the one keeping me guessing. Now, the roles were reversed, and I was just getting started. Leah and Maya became my partners in crime. We set up little signals, little breadcrumbs for him to find. A late-night phone call where I whispered and laughed into the receiver. Leah on the other end telling me the most ridiculous jokes. A text I left purposefully visible on my screen. "Thanks for today? Can't wait to do it again." Maya had sent it after a 3-hour pedicure. Every move was innocent, every moment carefully orchestrated. But to Daniel, it was suspicious enough to keep him up at night. One evening, I was in the kitchen humming along to a playlist when he walked in. He leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, eyes narrowing. "You've been different lately," he said slowly. I looked up from the chopping board, knife in hand, and smiled. "Different how?" He hesitated. "More distant, secretive." I chuckled, shaking my head. "Daniel, I'm literally making you dinner." How secretive can I be? But I didn't explain the gym bag in the trunk of my car. I didn't explain the weekend bags. I let the silence hang, let him wonder. That night, as I climbed into bed, he pulled me close, more urgently than usual. His hands clung like he was afraid I might slip away. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel desperation to keep him. I felt power. The best part? I didn't have to lie to him once. Leah reminded me of that over coffee one morning. Everything you're doing, it's all real. You're not faking anything. You're just living and letting him drive himself crazy. Maya added her own twist. It's like you're holding up a mirror. He sees his own cheating reflected back at him, only this time he's on the other side. And that's exactly what it was. By the end of the month, Daniel was unraveling. He asked more questions. He checked the laundry basket when I wasn't looking, as if he'd find evidence of something that wasn't there. He stayed awake later than usual, pretending to read while his eyes darted to my phone every time it buzzed. One night, he even asked, "Is there someone else?" I turned to him, feigning shock. "Daniel, why would you even think that?" He faltered, searching for an answer he couldn't give without exposing himself. I kissed his cheek, rolled over, and went to sleep smiling. Because the truth was, the question wasn't about me at all. It was about him, his guilt, his paranoia, his fear that maybe, just maybe, I'd stopped being the woman who waited at home for him to come back. And for once, he was right. By the second month, the changes in me weren't just surface level anymore. They ran deeper, threading into every part of my life. I woke up earlier, eager for the gym. I picked clothes that made me feel powerful, not just comfortable. I laughed louder, smiled more, even danced around the kitchen when music played on the radio. For years, I had felt invisible in my own home. Now, I was luminous. And Daniel noticed. At first, he pretended not to. He gave me half smiles, asked casual questions. But soon, the casual turned to suspicious. His eyes lingered longer. His voice carried an edge, like every word I spoke had a double meaning. One evening, I came back from a gym class, hair pulled up, sweat still glowing on my skin, when he looked me up and down and asked, "So, who are you getting in shape for?" I didn't even pause. I slipped off my sneakers, tossed them by the door, and said lightly, "For myself." "Who else?" But the way his jaw tightened told me he didn't believe me. That night, when I pulled on silk pajamas I hadn't worn in years, he sat on the edge of the bed, silent, brooding. His fingers tapped against his knee like he wanted to ask something, but didn't dare. I slid under the covers, turned off the lamp, and let him stew in the silence. The game was working, but more than that, I was working. I wasn't faking the glow in my skin, the energy in my step, the spark in my eyes. Those were mine. They came from choosing myself, day after day. Leah saw it too. We met for lunch at a cafe downtown, sunlight streaming through the big glass windows. She leaned across the table, chin resting on her palm, eyes gleaming with pride. "You look amazing," she said. "It's like you've come back to life." I smiled, sipping my iced tea. I feel amazing. For the first time in years, I feel like me, again. Her expression softened. "And how's Daniel handling it?" I set my glass down, smirk tugging at my lips. "Not well." He asks too many questions. He watches me like I'm a puzzle he can't solve. Last night, he even accused me of, "Well, you know," Leah laughed, shaking her head. "And you didn't deny it?" "I didn't have to. The beauty of this plan is that the silence does more damage than words ever could." Her laughter faded, and her voice grew serious. "But you're not just doing this to punish him, right? You're doing this for you too?" Her question lingered. I thought about it, tracing the rim of my glass with my fingertip. At first, maybe it was about him, about making him feel the way I did. But now it's about proving to myself that I can stand tall, even if he's crumbling, that I don't need his validation to shine. Leah reached across the table, squeezing my hand. "Good, because the strongest revenge isn't breaking him. It's reminding yourself you were never broken in the first place." Her words struck deep. They became my mantra. That weekend, I decided to push the game a little further. Maya had suggested a girls' night out. Just the three of us. Nothing wild, just dinner, dancing, and laughter. But when Daniel asked what my plans were, I gave him only the vaguest answer. "Just going out with the girls," I said, slipping into a fitted black dress that hugged my curves. His eyes narrowed. "Where?" I shrugged, fastening my earrings. "Here and there. Don't wait up." I caught the way his knuckles whitened around his glass. When I got home near midnight, still humming from the music and the joy of laughing with Leah and Maya, he was awake, sitting in the dark living room, TV off, waiting. "You could have texted," he said flatly. "I told you not to wait up." I dropped my purse on the counter, kicked off my heels. Didn't realize I needed to file an itinerary. His eyes were sharp, searching my face for cracks. But I gave him nothing. Just a calm smile as I poured myself a glass of water. "Who were you with?" he asked. "My sister, my best friend, same people I've always been with." He didn't answer, didn't move, just sat there, staring like he could will the truth out of me. I let the silence stretch, then said softly, "Funny how the guilty always see guilt in others." I didn't wait for his reaction. I walked upstairs, leaving him in the dark with his own thoughts. That was the moment I realized. I didn't need to confront him to make him break. He was already doing it to himself. And yet, deep down, there was still an ache. Still a part of me that wished I didn't have to play these games at all. That wished the man I married was still the man sitting downstairs. But he wasn't. That night, as I lay in bed, I thought about Leah's words. The strongest revenge isn't breaking him. It's remembering you were never broken. And for the first time, I truly believed it. The silence between us became its own kind of war. Daniel no longer came home late with casual excuses. Instead, he started showing up earlier, circling me like a hawk. His eyes lingered on my phone when it buzzed. His ears perked up when I laughed at a text. He was hunting for cracks, for confirmation of the affair he was sure I was having. But the truth was, I didn't need another man to rattle him. I just needed myself. One evening, I left a half-empty wine glass on the kitchen counter, the rim stained faintly with lipstick. I knew he'd notice when he came home. I was already upstairs by the time he walked in. I heard the clink as he picked up the glass, the pause as he inspected it. When he came into the bedroom, his expression was taut. "Had company?" he asked casually. Too casually. I looked up from my book and smiled. "Just me." "Why?" His lips pressed into a thin line, but he didn't push further. He didn't have to. The seed had already been planted. Another weekend, I went away with Leah and Maya. We snapped photos of our spa trip, facials, fluffy robes, glasses of champagne. Before I headed home, Maya texted me a single line. "Thanks for today. Can't wait to do it again." I left the message on my lock screen, knowing Daniel would glance at it while I showered. And he did. I could feel his eyes burning into the phone when it buzzed. Later that night, he asked, "Who's texting you at this hour?" "Maya," I said, toweling off my hair. "You've met her." His mouth opened, then closed. He had no proof, nothing to hold on to. But doubt is a poison that doesn't need evidence, just imagination. The transformation was taking hold. At the gym, Leah laughed when I told her how he was unraveling. He's practically interrogating you without realizing he's confessing his own guilt. I grinned, breathless from a set of squats. That's the beauty of it. He thinks he's chasing me, but really, he's chasing himself. Leah slapped her towel against her thigh and smirked. "Honestly, I hope he loses sleep every night. He deserves it." Even Maya, usually quick with jokes, grew serious one evening as we sipped cocktails. "You know what I love most about this? You're not just getting revenge. You're healing. You're laughing again. You're alive." Her words hit me harder than she knew, because deep down, she was right. The more I focused on living, the less his betrayal defined me. I wasn't just playing him. I was freeing myself. But Daniel couldn't see that. All he saw was shadows where none existed. One night, he finally snapped. I had just finished dancing around the living room to an old playlist, music still pulsing in the background, when he burst in through the front door. His eyes were wild, his voice sharp. "Who are you doing this for?" I froze, caught mid-laugh. "Doing what?" "This!" He gestured at me. The music, the dress, the energy I carried like a second skin. The gym, the spa weekends, the late nights out. "Who's it for?" I tilted my head, heart hammering, but voice steady. "For me. Always for me." He didn't believe me. I saw it in the way his fists clenched, the way his breath came fast. But he had no proof, No way to pin his suspicions on me. So he turned away, pacing like a caged animal. I let the silence settle before I spoke again. Funny, Daniel. When you were the one working late, disappearing, sneaking off with your phone, I didn't accuse you. I trusted you. So why can't you do the same? His shoulders stiffened, his head snapping toward me. For a split second, fear flickered in his eyes. Not of me, but of what he knew he had done. I didn't push further. I didn't need to, because the truth was, I wasn't out to destroy him. He was doing that just fine on his own.
Oh, now this is delicious. The man who thought he could juggle lies suddenly can't even handle a little lipstick on a wine glass. Tell me in the comments, do you think she's going too far, or is this just the perfect dose of karma? Because personally, I'm grabbing popcorn.
That night, as I lay in bed, I realized something. This wasn't just psychological warfare anymore. This was survival. This was me clawing back the power I had handed over years ago. And the best part? He couldn't stop it, because he couldn't control what wasn't happening. By the time spring came, Daniel was unraveling in ways I'd never seen before. The confident, smooth-talking man I once married had been replaced with someone jumpy, insecure, almost desperate. He started coming home earlier, texting me throughout the day. Little check-ins that felt less like care and more like surveillance. What are you up to? Where are you? Who are you with? It was ironic, almost laughable. For years, I had begged for his attention, his presence, his time. Now he was handing it to me in obsessive doses, and I wanted nothing less. One evening, I planned another spa weekend with Leah. As I packed my overnight bag, Daniel stood in the doorway, arms crossed. His eyes trailed over the neatly folded clothes, the bottle of perfume I tossed in last. Another weekend away? His voice was low, measured, but I could hear the strain beneath it. Yes, I said, zipping up the bag. With Leah. He didn't move. Do you have to go? I turned to him, tilting my head. Do I need your permission? His jaw tightened, but he didn't answer. Instead, he reached for the bag, pulling it gently toward him. Stay. Let's just spend the weekend together. The plea caught me off guard. For a moment, I saw a flicker of the man I married, the one who used to beg me not to leave for work trips, the one who once said I was the best part of his life. But the flicker was gone as quickly as it came, replaced by paranoia, by fear. I pulled the bag from his grip. Funny, when I was the one asking for weekends together, you always had somewhere else to be. His face fell, and he looked away. I left anyway. That weekend, Leah and I soaked in hot tubs, ate room service, and laughed until our stomachs ached. But in quiet moments, she studied me with concern. You're enjoying this, she said softly. But is there a part of you that still hopes he'll change? The question lodged in my chest. I sipped my champagne, staring at the bubbles. Maybe. Maybe I keep thinking if he can fall apart like this over nothing, then maybe he does care. But then I remember, he didn't care enough to stay faithful. Leah squeezed my hand. Don't mistake panic for love. He's not scared of losing you. He's scared of losing control. Her words rang in my head all weekend. When I returned home, Daniel was waiting in the driveway. His eyes scanned me as I stepped out of the car, like he expected to find another man climbing out behind me. Did you have fun? He asked stiffly. Yes, I said simply. He opened his mouth, then closed it. His fists curled at his sides, and for a moment I thought he might explode. But instead, he just nodded and walked back inside. The tension in the house was unbearable. He followed me from room to room, asked questions he didn't have the courage to finish. Where were you really? Who do you talk to when you're on your phone at night? Why are you always smiling lately? Each time, I gave him the same calm answer. I'm living my life, Daniel. Maybe you should try it. But the final straw came 2 weeks later. I had just finished a yoga class with Maya and was walking through the parking lot when I spotted him, Daniel, leaning against his car, watching me. My stomach dropped, but I steadied myself. What are you doing here? following you, he said bluntly. I had to know. My blood ran cold, not from fear, but from fury. Had to know what? That I was in a yoga class? That I was with my best friend? He stepped closer, his voice rising. That you weren't lying to me. That you weren't sneaking around. I laughed, sharp, bitter, incredulous. Sneaking around? Daniel, if anyone knows about sneaking, it's you. His face went pale. The words slipped out of me before I could stop them, but once they were there, hanging in the air, I didn't regret them. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out, just silence. I stepped closer, meeting his eyes. You're losing your mind over an affair that doesn't exist. But I know about the one that does. So tell me, Daniel, who should really be paranoid here? He staggered back, like the air had been punched out of him. I didn't give him time to recover. I brushed past him, slid into my car, and drove away, leaving him standing in the lot, drowning in the truth he thought I didn't know. That night, he didn't come home, and for the first time, I didn't care. Daniel came home 3 days later, looking like he hadn't slept. His shirt was wrinkled, his hair unkempt, and his eyes carried a kind of desperate apology I wasn't sure I'd ever seen before. He found me in the kitchen, humming softly as I chopped vegetables for dinner. I didn't stop what I was doing when he walked in. We need to talk, he said hoarsely. I set the knife down, finally meeting his gaze. Do we? Yes, he insisted, stepping closer. His hands trembled slightly at his sides. Because I know something's been happening between us. And I don't... I cut him off with a sharp laugh. Something's been happening? Daniel, you've been happening. With someone else. For months. His mouth fell open, shock flashing across his face. But before he could deny it, I kept going. You thought I didn't know? The late nights, the hotel messages, the way you smelled of perfume that wasn't mine. My voice grew colder with every word. I saw it all. And I decided I wasn't going to beg for the truth. I was going to make you live in the same torment you put me through. He froze. The silence was heavy, thick enough to choke on. Finally, he whispered, So all this time, you weren't... I raised an eyebrow. Cheating? No, I never needed another man, Daniel. Just the thought of you squirming in your own lies was enough. His face twisted with guilt and disbelief. Why didn't you just confront me? Because confronting you would have made it too easy. You would have denied, lied, twisted it back on me. Instead, I let you believe I was the one stepping out. And you broke yourself without me lifting a finger. He sank into a chair, burying his face in his hands. God, I don't even recognize myself anymore. I watched him for a long moment, my chest tight. For so long, I had wanted him to feel what I felt. The doubt, the sleepless nights, the ache of betrayal. And now, he did. Every ounce of it. But seeing him crumble didn't bring the satisfaction I thought it would. Instead, it made me realize something deeper. I wasn't just fighting him. I was fighting for me. For the woman who had dimmed herself to fit into his shadow. I leaned against the counter, folding my arms. Here's the truth, Daniel. I could have left the moment I saw that text, but I stayed. Not because I needed you, but because I needed to remind myself who I am. And now, I remember. He lifted his head, eyes bloodshot. Do you still want this marriage? The question caught me off guard. Part of me wanted to say no, to slam the door shut. But another part of me, the part that believed in second chances, in rebuilding instead of burning down, hesitated. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I said, what I want is a partner who doesn't make me doubt my worth. If you can't be that, then it doesn't matter what you want. His throat bobbed as he swallowed hard. Then give me a chance to be that man again. Please. I stared at him, weighing his words, feeling the power shift. For the first time in years, I wasn't the one begging. He was. and it was his turn to prove whether he meant it. The house felt different after that night, quieter, heavier, like even the walls were holding their breath, waiting to see what I would decide. Daniel moved carefully around me, as if I were glass he'd already cracked. He didn't push, didn't demand, didn't accuse anymore. For the first time in years, he was the one tiptoeing. And I didn't rush to fill the silence. I needed space, and he seemed to know it. He started small, picking up groceries without being asked, folding laundry, cooking dinner once in a while, things that should have been normal, but in our house had become rare. It wasn't about the chores. It was about the effort, about showing me that maybe, just maybe, he was ready to do more than take. One evening, he knocked on the doorframe of the study where I was working. "Can we talk?" he asked. His voice was careful, like a man approaching a wild animal. I closed my laptop. "About what?" "About us." He stepped inside, hesitating before sitting across from me, his hands twisted in his lap. "I know sorry isn't enough. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness yet, but I need you to know I want to change. I don't want to lose you." I studied him for a long moment. The old me would have jumped at those words, clung to them like a lifeline. But the woman sitting here now wasn't desperate anymore. She was steady, grounded, aware of her worth. "You already lost parts of me, Daniel," I said quietly. "The parts that trusted you blindly. The parts that bent over backward just to feel enough. Those are gone." His face crumpled. "Then what's left?" I held his gaze, voice firm. "What's left is a woman who knows her value, who doesn't beg for scraps of attention, who won't tolerate lies. If you want to stay married to me, you have to meet me where I am now, not where I used to be." He nodded, tears welling in his eyes. "I'll do whatever it takes." I didn't soften. "Then prove it. Not with words, with actions, real ones." That night, he slept on the couch without me asking. And for the first time, I slept soundly, because I knew the power in this marriage had shifted. The weeks that followed weren't perfect. Far from it. Trust is not rebuilt in days, and wounds don't close with a single apology. There were moments I wanted to scream, moments I wanted to cry, moments I nearly packed a bag and left anyway. But then, there were moments that gave me pause, like when he canceled a golf trip with colleagues to spend the weekend painting the spare room with me, laughing when we both ended up with blue streaks in our hair, or when he left his phone on the counter, unlocked, walking away without a second thought, or when he reached for my hand in the middle of the night, not with urgency, but with quiet tenderness. Leah noticed the difference when she visited one Sunday. Over coffee, she studied him as he bustled in the kitchen, humming to himself. Then she leaned close to me and whispered, "He looks like a man who knows he's on probation." I smirked. "That's because he is." She squeezed my shoulder. "Just don't forget, you hold the cards now. Don't give them back too easily." Maya was less forgiving. "I don't know how you're even giving him a second chance," she admitted one night over wine. "But if you do, make sure he sweats every day for it." I laughed softly. "Oh, don't worry. He's sweating plenty." One night, weeks later, Daniel finally said the words I'd been waiting for. We were sitting on the porch, twilight settling in, the crickets singing their evening song. He stared out at the yard, then turned to me, voice steady. "I was selfish. I betrayed you. And I almost destroyed the best thing in my life. I know I can't erase what I did, but I promise you this. I will spend every day proving I can be the man you deserve. Not because I'm afraid of losing you, but because I finally see who you are. And I refuse to take that for granted again." I studied him, searching for cracks, for insincerity. But what I saw was raw, stripped bare. For once, he wasn't performing. He was confessing. And in that moment, I realized I didn't need him to be perfect. I just needed him to be honest. "I'm not promising you instant forgiveness," I said. "I'm not promising we'll ever go back to what we were. But if you're willing to do the work, then maybe we can build something better. Something real." His eyes softened. He nodded. That's all I want. As I lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, I thought about the journey that had brought us here. The betrayal, the games, the tears, the laughter I'd rediscovered with Leah and Maya. I realized my plan had never really been about breaking him. It had been about finding myself again, about remembering that I was worth the effort, the fight, the love, and whether Daniel could rise to meet me or not, that part was up to him. But me? I was already whole. She doesn't leave. She doesn't forgive instantly. Instead, she reclaims her power and forces him to face the consequences. The marriage doesn't end. It transforms on her terms.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.